Everyone, as we begin our service today, I'm going to kindly ask that we turn off or silence all cell phones, electronic devices. Thank you.
I have learned that in times of separation and loss and sorrow, the Psalms can bring much comfort and solace. And in this spirit, we now hear the verses of Psalm 23, this great psalm of faith. And these words remind us that even when we feel alone or lonely, we are never truly alone. For God is with us. And we know that God is with Lynda, with Lynn, Linny, Lino. Okay.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al me menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi shovev, nafshi yeshovev, Yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begetz al mavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan taroch lefanai shulchan taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorerai Dishanta vashemen roshi Dishanta vashemen roshi Dishanta vashemen roshi Kosi rivaya Ach tov v'chesed Yirdefuni kol yemei chayai Vishavti bevet Adonai Vishavti bevet Adonai leorech yamim Yadai 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 yai. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever.
I continue with a more modern-day poem, which we read at our synagogue from time to time, and especially around the time of the High Holy Days. And I'd like to personalize it for Lynda. I think she liked it. She would have told me, right, if she didn't? At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we will remember Lynda. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember Lynn. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember Lynn. At the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we will remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joy we crave to share, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have achievements that are based on hers, we will remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. We will remember Lynda, Linny, Lino, Lynn. She was memorable. She was unique. She was one of a kind and complicated. Your word. To know Lynda was and is to love her, and those with patience and compassion truly loved and appreciated her. Lynda was born with extremely high intelligence, and she was also on the spectrum. She was slow to begin talking, but once she did, she never stopped. And even though she had high anxiety and could get easily frustrated, she accomplished so much in life. Lynda read the Bible daily. She was well read in Jewish literature. She was very proud to be Jewish. She was a writer and an artist. She knew a lot about basketball, the 76ers in particular, and baseball, the Phillies. Opening game today, playing the Cincinnati Reds. Remember, I'm from Cincinnati. But my loyalty is with Philadelphia. She loved music, classic movies. She was a real foodie, even though she once set fire to her kitchen. She loved Philadelphia, dogs. She always had a boyfriend. She was an advocate for mental health, and she was aware of everything, and she knew a lot about everything. And that is why our loss is very sad and difficult, because Lynda loved life and living, and she wanted to live longer. Indeed, the greatest joy in life is to be able to say, I still have something to do, I want to accomplish yet more, and so she did. Lynda completed elementary school and then attended Cherry Hill High School West, right? But at that time, the school was unable to accommodate her needs. Therefore, she attended the Vanguard School in Malvern and excelled there. It was also there that she met her future husband, Jerome Cohn. Lynda also attended Ellen Cushing Junior College and even appeared in a college play there. Lynda first moved into her apartment in Philadelphia, and she never left the West Philly area. After dating many guys, a concert pianist, a newspaper reporter, etc., she settled down with the love of her life, Jerry, and they were together for some 30 years. At age 39, she gave birth to Sarah, who is likewise a talented artist. Sarah was raised by Jerry's sister Edie in San Diego, and she now lives in Florida, very close to where you live, Roz and Bob. When Jerry died in 2008, part of Lynn died as well. But she did what she needed to do, which was to go on and to live fully and remain active in liberal causes and advocate for mental illness. She even went to Harrisburg to report on the latest laws pertaining to special needs. Nevertheless, her true passion and love in life was Jerry and her sister Roz. Because one cannot speak of Lynn alone without also speaking of you, Roz, her devoted and loving sister. Your sister actually was 13 months younger than you, and you both shared a love of life, of art, and a good sense of humor. About 6 years ago, the two of you began taking sisters' trips. Some of your destinations included New York City, Brooklyn, the real capital of the world, Boston, Cape May, and the Brandywine Valley region. In your own words, quote, she was such a pain, but I loved her so very much, and she loved me. Roz, you were so devoted to your sister. And in a very real way, you added to the quality and quantity of her years. In the balance, Lynda would say that she led a full, fulfilling, vital, purposeful, and good life. Even with all of her anxiety, she led a very good life. I believe that one can best understand and appreciate a person by the way in which one copes with adversity setback, disappointment, illness, and loss. In January, Lynn was diagnosed with stomach cancer. She refused to give up or to give in. She said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And she even drew pictures of herself, fighting this cancer. She wanted to live. She so wanted to live, but it was not meant to be. And Linny died too soon, too young, but still reaching and climbing and hoping and loving. Your sister loved, and she was loved in turn, and we know that this love has not ended now with her passing. For as long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. And to keep those memories going, I'm going to call on a dear friend, Margie Skelly, who would like to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I decided to speak about Linny because it was about 20 years ago. Bob brought Roz to my life, and then Linny. And in the beginning, she just amazed me because I would be in her company, and no matter what I talked about, she knew more, and she never bragged. She would just say, "Oh, I know about that," and I would go, "How do you know this?" She knew everything. And the one thing that I do remember is my granddaughter went to college in Seton Hill by Pittsburgh, and I brought it up to Linny, and she always asks me about my family, A, B, C, D, E, F, all of them. And I said, "Oh, Mallory's going to go to Seton Hill." And she goes, "Oh, I know about that." She knew the town. She knew the nuns. She knew the priests. She knew everybody that was there. I didn't even know about Seton Hill. And I'm like, "Really?" So I bought her a T-shirt, and she wore that shirt when I would see her. But the most thing I know about her is that Roz and her had a special relationship, that Roz did say she was a pain. And I would say, "She's not that bad." She said, "Oh, no, go away with her for 3 days." She is. And I think the most thing that I'll miss is Roz, Linny wanted to call me, so Roz gave her my phone number. This was what I did. If I saw her phone number, I got a cup of coffee because it was like a half-hour sentence. And I went, yeah. And no matter, she would tell me facts that I would be like, I'm amazed with this woman. And then she would call me up and say, always, "Can I ask you a personal question?" I would say, "Yeah." And it would be something minor. And I would say, "That's not personal." And she always talked about love. Love your husband, love your kids, love your grandkids, always. And how much she loved Roz and Bob. And she always said, "Oh, Roz takes care of me." But I can take care of myself. And Roz sometimes tells me that I can't, she'll try to tell me. And I say, "Roz, I can figure it out." And the many times I've gone to lunch with them, that's what happened. But it was because Linny didn't get all my attention then. Roz was there. So Roz, if she said one word, she goes, "Roz, I'm speaking to her now." And just the funny things. And if Roz said, "I don't know why you wore that shirt," "I like it. I like this shirt. Don't you think it looks good?" And I would go, "Yeah, I think it looks good." But the most thing I'll miss about her is the phone calls. And the one that got me was she called to tell me she had cancer. And she said, "I have to tell you some really bad news." I'm like, what's the matter? I thought something happened to Roz. And she's like, she told me what happened. And I'm like, oh, Lenny. And she goes, oh, don't worry about it. She said, I'm a fighter. You know, I'm going to win this. And she said, and if not, I'll just be with Jerry. And it just took me back. Like, this woman is just moving forward, like, okay. And, you know, she was an artist. She just wrote things beautifully. She said things nice to me and truly cared every time she called me. How's Joe, Mallory, Molly, my whole family. And she knew everything about them. And she really only ever met Joe. She never met my grandkids, but she knew where they went to school. She would always ask me about the location. She just was a wonderful person. And I feel the same way. I think she'll be around all of us. She's never going to be gone. And she's never going to be gone from Roz. And Roz is the most wonderful human on this earth, one of them. And Bob and, you know, my family and all you people for coming today. So thank you all for coming to celebrate Lynn. But I called her Linny for like all the years. And the first time I met her, she was with Jerry, and she was like, I love this man. So thank you for coming, and have a nice day.
I am going to call on Roz now.
I just want you to know that Margie knitted Lenny a sapphire blue, was it? Blanket, because that was her favorite color. And she knitted it, and unfortunately, Lynn was not able to get the blanket because she was already too sick. But she spent hours knitting that blanket for Lenny. My speech has a lot of stuff that Rabbi David said, so you're going to have to hear it twice. But one thing I want to say is that my mother used to say to me, Rosie, when you get old, poor you're going to have to take care of your sister. And you know what? That was a privilege for me to take care of my sister. It was something that made me feel like I was really doing something important for her and for me. Okay, here it goes. Do you know what it's like to spend almost 75 years with someone you love? I feel fortunate that I had Lynn that long, and not having her seems unfathomable to me. She was my Irish twin, 13 months younger, and when we were kids, no one seemed to be able to tell us apart. Lynn was a true warrior, born with autism. She fought the good fight her whole life and accomplished so much, despite her challenges. She read the Bible every day, as Rabbi David said, sometimes multiple times a day. And she was the brightest person I ever met. She knew so much about everything. She was a sports fan, and she had a big crush on Brett Brown, the former head coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. On one of our sister vacations, we had to track down a pizza place where Brett used to hang out as a student in Boston. Lynn was a member of the Chestnut House in Philadelphia for many years, and she was appointed as a mental health advocate representing the Chestnut House. She was sent to Harrisburg, as Rabbi David said, to report back on the latest mental health legislation. Lenny loved dogs, and she knew every breed. And when we would go out in the street and walk together, she'd say, that's a Lapsacus, that's a this, that's a this. And she knew every dog as we passed by, and she would, like, talk to the dogs. And the people that owned the dogs were like, what? Anyway, she also knew where every dog had its origins. She was a medical transcriber for a time, and always impressed her doctors with her knowledge of pharmaceuticals. When people talked to Lynn, they were usually blown away by her knowledge of whatever they were talking about. You always learned something by conversing with her. She had an aide, Jaira, who called me in tears and said that she loved Lynn, and she felt like a better person when she was with Lynn. And that was something I really needed to hear that, and that was a wonderful thing to say. Lenny drew and painted from an early age, starting with her love of dinosaurs, then mythical figures in Greek and Roman mythology. She was especially fond of tarot cards. She had many decks. And by the way, she had 22 Bibles in the house when we went to clean out the apartment. She had many decks and loved to draw the symbols on the cards. She understood the cards. I didn't. She met Jerome Kahn, her significant other, at Vanguard High School for special needs. She dated in her 20s, but when she hailed a cab that Jerry was driving, that was it. They were together for 30 years and had a wonderful daughter named Sarah, now 35, who was raised by Jerry's sister, Edie. Lynn and Jerry lived in Upper Darby, but when Lynn started a fire in her kitchen and Jerry overfilled the bathtub and flooded the hallway in the apartment building, it was time to move. In 2007, they moved to 4247 Locust Street, the Fairfax, and that's where Lynn lived until she passed. She once told me, "I never want to leave this place. I want to stay here till I die." Jerry was diagnosed with blood cancer in 2008 and died within months. And they were a couple, as Rabbi David said, very much in love. Although Lynn henpecked Jerry, especially when he ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, like a lobster, his favorite, and someone else, like my parents, were paying for it. Lynn settled into her later years, continuing to do the things she loved, like walking around West Philadelphia, meeting friends for lunch, going to political events. Bob and I moved to Florida part-time about 7 years ago, so to make up for lost time, Lynn and I decided to have our sister vacations. So, as Rabbi David said, we went to New York, Boston, Cape May, Lambertville, and our last trip this past September to the Brandywine Valley. We both love museums, a glass of wine, and live theater. These trips are a special memory, and I'm eternally grateful that we had our time together. She really looked forward to our trips, and she talked about our trips with her friends. It's hard to describe someone accurately that I knew for over 74 years. She could be difficult, loving, thoughtful, demanding, anxious, and very sad. She could also be funny, and we shared our special kid-like sense of humor together. I wish she could have stayed healthy. I wish she could have lived longer to grace us with her presence, but fate had other plans for my sister. I'm so glad she's not suffering anymore, and she has joined Dave and Evie, and of course Jerry. I really miss you, Lino.
As we begin to conclude our service, I would like to include this poem, which I would like to read as if Lynn was responding to the beautiful words spoken by her sister and her friend. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took God's hand. When I heard God call, I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Task left undone must stay that way. I found that place at the close of day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah, yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. God set me free. Let us all rise.
רחמים, שוכן במרומים. המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמת ליבה בת דוד וחווה, שהלכה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. El Maleh Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Linny, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. I've been asked to announce that following our service at Crescent Memorial Park in Pennsauken, the family will return to their residence, 28 Knollwood Drive in Cherry Hill, where they will receive all family and friends. There will be a Shiva Minyan on Saturday evening at their home at 7 p.m. And this is a very good opportunity to share your own memories and stories about Lynda. Thank you.